Hi folks, you're with Tacitus today at your Pushback channel, and thank you for joining this radio live stream. In this essay, I'd like to talk about how the globalists have very successfully installed globalist puppets, not only in all our institutions and universities and so on, but also, unsurprisingly, all across the law courts and indeed the legal system generally. So now you'd think that enough people in the legal system would still want to concentrate on facts and the rules of evidence and the rule of law and these sort of things. But the situation is crumbling and falling apart quite quickly. And so we were having a very nice lunch with a number of people in a very nice area in a very nice house. And one of the people there was a very senior bureaucrat in the appeal courts. So if someone loses a decision in court or doesn't get the decision they think they should have based on the evidence, they can appeal. They can go to these appeal courts, and the people in it are supposed to be very focused on, well, what are the facts, and to make sure that proper legal process took place and that the legal rights as enshrined in the Constitution and in law were not abused or overlooked in the hearing of the court and indeed the decision of the court. So appeal courts are very much, it's incumbent on them to focus on the facts. Well, that's what you'd think. This doesn't appear to be the case. I'm sure it is in some cases, but it's a bit of a lottery now. Do you get a judge that was appointed before political correctness and the globalist sort of takeover began, and that would have to be more than 20 years ago, if not 25 years ago, or do you look at, do you say, well, look, any judge under the age of, say, 50, certainly under the age of 45, has been brought up in an environment where their college professor has banged on endlessly about equity and social justice and equality of outcome and all these sorts of things. There's the oppressed and the oppressed. Straight white males are evil, and we have to change society by artificially stacking the deck in court cases and so on. So, the clerk, the law, the clerks in the law courts, the judges, all this sort of thing, if they're under a certain age, then the majority of them will have been brought up in that sort of situation. And so we can assume that therefore the majority of them will look at every legal decision as a way to alter society, in the same way as pulling down statues of George Washington or Winston Churchill are perceived as being a good in themselves, because they will change society, its perceptions, and so on, and they believe that's their right. Is it the law? Is it facts? Is it the Constitution? No, get fucked. Every court case, every appeal case is an opportunity to reshape society along globalist lines. Now, these people actually think that, or a lot of them do. So anyway, at this lunch, the subject of Roe versus Wade came up, and now this person, I won't give away anything here, this person is in line for a very well-paid, very senior job at one of the UN Quango type organisations, and this will be extremely prestigious, and it's $500,000 a year, but plus all accommodation and transport and a driver and a cook and so on. So there's a lot of benefits that go with it, including lots of study tours. I would speculate that all packaged up, it's probably somewhere around $720,000 to $750,000 a year, which, by the way, is tax-free. So in taxable income terms, it's probably closer to, say, $1.5 million a year, and if you're making it in the US or any Western country. So that $1.5 million a year in tax, that's a serious income. So although you need that today to get ahead in the big cities. So anyway, this person's in that sort of situation. And I couldn't work out whether there's going to be a reward for services rendered to globalization or services they would render to globalisation, because it's a fairly sort of you say, well, this person's been a very senior player in the public service, and they've been holding down very important positions and have made great pronouncements and those sorts of things. So that gives them an aura of credibility and sort of an element of mystique about that they know things that others don't, that mere mortals can't comprehend, that sort of stuff. Excuse me, I had some coffee, went down the wrong way a few minutes ago, and I'm still paying for it. So anyway, I was sort of the view that this individual was going to be quite knowledgeable in the subject, and I didn't approach it with any degree of prejudice. Just thought, okay, well, let's see. So we started talking about Roe versus Wade, which is how I was stunned at how fixed and firm their positions are. The overturning of Roe versus Wade is an outrageous imposition on women everywhere. It is a fascist move, and it's the sort of thing that Donald Trump appointed judges would do. Fascist Nazi, Hitler, and the Supreme Court should be just taken. It should be abandoned, abolished. This is no longer legitimate. And the president who appointed those judges should be tried for treason and sent to prison. Hitler! And I was aghast listening to this. And so now there's other people around. You can't sort of go and make a chase of it without being uncouth and vulgar. So you have to sort of wind it slowly into the conversation and do a lot of smiling and nodding and the like. But I came back to it a few times when the opportunity presented itself. But what intrigued me was this individual had no real knowledge of the original Roe versus Wade, 1970, 72, 73, somewhere in there, the original Roe versus Wade decision, and how that departed from the Constitution. There was no right for abortion in the Constitution, as the justices at the time, I believe, wrongly determined, based on spurious interpretations of what privacy meant. And I think the judges now have, far from being partisan on the issue, have simply said there is no right to that in the Constitution. This is a matter for the elected representatives of the people to make that decision, which is where I believe at least properly lies. So I can't see that the SCOTUS made any mistake or any error, that they've properly interpreted the Constitution of the United States and handed that authority over abortion to the people's elected representatives. Nothing wrong with that at all. It's hardly revolutionary, hardly jaw-dropping. It's really a tidying up of what was a mistake nearly 50 years ago, or something that really shouldn't have happened in the first place 50 years ago. Now, so I think it's no big deal at the end of the day. It's really an administrative tidying up of a legal matter. Now, it carries with it a huge amount of emotional and ideological drama and implication, and that I accept and understand. But most of that's ginned up by globalist and leftist agitators and feminist agitators. That wouldn't be there without the agitators going into overdrive about it and the media trying to hype it and gin it up. So I don't think there is an issue there to be ginned up and hyped up. So they have to make up a lot of things and pretend that something diabolical has occurred when in fact it hasn't. But it began, all this activism is but coming back to this person, they, without knowing really anything about the original Roe versus Wade, or knowing anything about, it was obvious, for example, they hadn't read Justice Alito's opinion or Justice Clarence Thomas's opinion, or any of the others for that matter. They had some minor knowledge of one of the dissenting opinions. I think it was from that leftist activist judge, Sotomayor or something, and they had some opinion there. But really, their whole the direction they went was just completely the globalist, media agitator type talking points. They just, this person just spoke in talking points without any comprehension of what was going on. Now, bear in mind that they've spent a lot of time in and around the appeals court and have been responsible for, so it's alleged, responsible for producing the policies and the standards that the court has to adhere to. And this person has quite a long legal background. So they're not without the relevant education or the experience, and they have access to, if they wanted, they have access to some of the most potent legal minds in the country, if they wanted to access them, and people who are experts in constitutional law, that sort of thing. But they spoke as if they were some talking head anchor on fucking CNN or MSNBC, and again they just spouted all this stupid globalist, leftist agitator, feminist nonsense. And I was quite surprised. Not that maybe they didn't mention a couple of things about it, but the extent of all they had to say, they had no understanding. I mean, nada zilch understanding of the issues and what had really happened. And we're just running with this globalist outrage script, and made no attempt. Now, I attempted to mention a few of the facts. And for example, I mentioned the original Roe versus Wade filing, and what sloppy amateurish law student type work it was. And this person was like, I don't know anything about that. I've never read that. I don't. Well, then why the fuck are you opining on it like you're some sort of fucking expert when you haven't even read not only the current or the recent decision, such as Justice Alito's paper, and you don't even know what the fucking original one was. Well, why are you opining? But they wouldn't climb down. They just gave a sort of a smirky smile, like, shut up, you dickhead. And so I didn't pursue it beyond that because it would have embarrassed other people there. And I thought, no, I can't really go after this one. But I was horrified that someone in that senior position, they advised, people like this advise prime ministers and governors and the various committees and associations that frame and modify laws and how they'll be interpreted, and the rules that judges have to adhere to when they hear cases and when they give sentences and things like that, and compensation and so on. So this is a very, very important role, and this person should be extremely knowledgeable. But not only that, should have an interest in finding out things. Well, gee whiz, I'm a little surprised. Maybe they could have said to themselves, I'm a little surprised by that Roe versus Wade decision, a week or so ago. I better look into it because that someone like that, technically at least, has the expertise to be able to pore over that information and determine what it means, the implications it has, the judicial ramifications, things of that nature. But they didn't. They didn't bother. They didn't care. Hey, I just go off the talking points from CNN and MSNBC. That's my interpretation of the law. And again, this is someone sitting at the fucking apex of the law and how it's interpreted and how it's enacted. So I came away rather disillusioned. So if anyone should be upholding the law and due legal process and all these sorts of things, there should be somebody like that. They should be the absolute forefront, but they weren't. And even more important thing, they didn't give a shit. The talking points were good enough, and that's what they prepared to run with. Now, there's a couple of sort of side issues here. The person struck me as being rather lazy, so maybe they just couldn't be bothered. It's hard work to get online and have a look at this. Maybe they've got flunkies that run around that are themselves activists, and that's definitely 99% going to be the case. So these young, because the clerks and the junior flunkies around these places, they're all people who are supplied, on a round robin basis from the universities, the activist universities, to NGOs, into the bureaucracy, back to the NGO. It's just a conga line of activist young people going around these places, and the facts are white supremacist, and due legal process is Hitler. And so they've got these crazy, insane views that everything is to be social justice and social equity. So maybe he delegated it to, or the person rather delegated it to some flunkies in the office, and they came back with those sort of talking points. I guess that's a possibility, but it doesn't then let this person off for the laziness that they're in. The other side of it is they're about or it seems to be they're about to be offered a very cosy gig in the international globalist employment scheme, rich employment scheme, and they want to stay tightly to the script that's going to keep their globalist masters happy, and in return they're going to get a very cushy, cozy, well-paid, prestigious gig, and then they'll be passed around to the globalist cabal, being given all these well-paid, prestigious jobs. So maybe they're terrified of one word out of place is going to be enough to cost them this gig. So they're rehearsing the script that they have to use in order to suck up to their their masters that are going to pay them and look after them handsomely. So, and it is very much a thing today. If you're useful to the globalists and you're able to assist in implementing the globalist project and forcing it upon an unwilling populace by various means, which includes ignoring the rule of law and due legal process, then you're of service to the globalists, and they will reward you handsomely. And I have a look at the best paid jobs in Australia at right now, and it has been for a few years now. All the best paid, coziest, cushiest, prestigious jobs, 90% of them are globalist and globalist policy implementation related. That's how much things have changed. But I just thought I'd mention that even at the highest levels of jurisprudence, the globalists have managed to appoint their puppets and again reward them handsomely for services rendered. You've been Tacitus today, your Pushback channel, and thank you for listening.